Hi, I'm Dr. Matt Skalski, and this is part one in a new video series I'm doing called Live Anatomy, where I'm going to build anatomy right in front of you so we can discuss all of the anatomic details that you need to know. And to start with my first video, I want to do the atlas, the top of the spine at the craniovertebral junction, what connects our head to the rest of our neck. And let's just jump right into this here. And to start, I want to show you kind of the global ring-shaped structure that C1 has as it's protecting our upper cervical spinal cord as it transitions into the brainstem. And so the main structural portion of the back of the vertebral body is our posterior arch, which I'm going to make back here, and the anterior arch up here. And those are divided by our lateral masses here, which are going to be the thing that transmits force from the skull, I mean, it's a little bit too big, down to C2, and essentially is the equivalent of our articular pillars in the lower cervical spine. And these, of course, have to have a junction with the occipital condyle, so you're going to have this deep concave articular surface up here, which is going to join our occipital condyles to C1. And then we have to have a junction for our C2 lateral facets, and these are a bit flatter, so let's just flatten this out. They're slightly concave, but not nearly as concave as our junction for the occipital condyles. And let me just bring this up a little bit more here. So these are our lateral masses. And then our anterior arch here, you can see, is relatively short. And then there's going to be an anterior tubercle here on the front of this. So let me just draw that in here. Okay, so here's our anterior tubercle. And then behind that, we have a facet for the odontoid process, or the dens. Okay, so let me just polish that in there. All right, so this is our facet for the dens. And then back here on the posterior arch, which is a bit longer and a bit thinner, let me just actually thin that out a little bit and make it a bit bigger. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Back here, we're also going to have a tubercle called the posterior tubercle. Okay, and so now we've got our anterior arch with our anterior tubercle, posterior arch with our posterior tubercle. And then the last piece of anatomy we need to add are the transverse processes. So let's go in here and pull out some transverse processes. So these transverse processes, if we bring them out here, are going to have a foramen in the center of them, just like the rest of our cervical spine, called the transverse foramen. And that's going to be the place through which our vertebral artery passes up through, comes across the posterior arch, and then curves up into the central canal to become the basilar arteries. So let me go ahead and add those transverse foramina. All right, so now you can see I've put some holes through the transverse processes here, which are transverse foramina. And so now what we need to do is we need to come here and fix the geometry here a little bit. And let's just add a little shelf of bone here, which the vertebral artery is going to kind of pass over to get up over the posterior arch to enter the central canal here. So let me just smooth this out here a little bit and add a little bit more bulk to this area. Okay, and so this is where our vertebral artery is going to pass. And occasionally we will actually have calcification of the arcuate fibers of the atlanto-occipital membrane, which pass over this area. So these fibers are there regardless. They just happen to be calcified in some people. And so this is referred to as our arcuate foramen of C1, or occasionally the posterior ponticle. Some people might call this the Kimberley anomaly if they're living in the 20th century. And so this is where our vertebral artery passes through. So this is a normal structure seen in roughly 10% of people. So this is our anatomy of C1. So hopefully this video helped you. If you liked it, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you don't miss our future videos, hit that like button, and that will really help us grow our channel, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.